The Alpha King's little son slipped into the most dangerous river in the kingdom. Hundreds of warriors stood there. Everyone screamed, but no one jumped, 'cause everyone knew one thing. The Blackwater River never gives anyone back. Then an unknown Omega girl ran forward. Without thinking about her own life, she jumped into the deadly water. Seconds later she emerged carrying the unconscious prince in her arms. The crowd called her a hero. But then the little boy opened his eyes and whispered one impossible word. Uma. The Alpha King froze. Because the woman holding his son looked exactly like the mate he had rejected and buried 6 years ago. But if she was dead, then who had just returned from the river? The little hand disappeared beneath the black water. A scream tore through the night. Prince Leo was gone. The river roared like a monster awakened from sleep. Waves crashed against the rocks and swallowed the place where the young prince had been standing only seconds before. Panic exploded across the riverbank. Warriors ran forward and then stopped. Everyone knew the stories. No one survived the Blackwater River. The current was too strong. The water too deep. The river took lives and never returned them. Alpha King Daemon Blackthorn shoved through the crowd. His golden eyes searched the dark water. His face had turned white. His son. His only child. The boy surfaced for one terrible moment. Small fingers reached toward the sky. His frightened voice broke the night. Father. Then the river dragged him under again. Daemon jumped toward the edge. Too far. Too late. A guard grabbed his arm. Your Majesty, the current will kill you. Daemon threw him aside. But before he could leap, someone rushed past him. A young Omega servant. She was small and slender. Her gray dress fluttered in the wind. Long silver hair streamed behind her. No one even knew her name. No one expected anything from an Omega. Yet she did not hesitate. No fear crossed her face. No questions. No pause. She dove into the river. The crowd gasped. The icy water swallowed her whole. Silence followed. Even the wind seemed to stop. One heartbeat. 5. In. Nothing. Then suddenly a hand burst from the water. The Omega appeared. She held Prince Leo tightly against her chest. The boy was unconscious. She fought the river with every ounce of strength she had left. Wave after wave struck her. She disappeared beneath the water once, then rose again. Warriors finally moved. They rushed into the shallows and pulled them both to safety. The woman collapsed onto the rocks. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She coughed and water spilled from her lips. Prince Leo lay still. Too still. Daemon fell beside his son. Leo. No answer. The Alpha King touched the boy's face. Cold. Far too cold. Then the child coughed. Water sprayed from his mouth. His eyes slowly opened. A cry of relief spread through the crowd. The prince was alive. Daemon pulled his son into his arms. Leo. The little boy blinked. Then he looked past his father. His gaze settled on the silver-haired Omega. The woman had closed her eyes. She looked exhausted, almost broken. Prince Leo lifted his trembling hand. He touched her cheek. Then he whispered one word. Uma. Everything stopped. The river. The crowd. Even the wind. Daemon slowly turned his head. His heart forgot how to beat. 'Cause he knew that face. The pale skin. The silver blue eyes. The tiny scar near her eyebrow. It was impossible. Could not be. Yet the woman lying on the stones looked exactly like Lyra. The mate he had lost 6 years ago. The mate he had rejected. The mate who had died. The woman slowly opened her eyes. For a single moment she looked at him. Shock filled her face. Pain followed. Then she quickly looked away. Daemon felt something twist inside his chest. He had seen that look before. Long ago. On the day he destroyed her life. The woman tried to stand. Her legs trembled. She nearly fell. Without thinking, Daemon reached for her. The moment his fingers touched her arm, she flinched. As though his hand burned. The movement cut deeper than any blade. Once she had smiled whenever he touched her. Now she looked afraid. Who are you? He asked quietly. The woman lowered her gaze. My name is Elena, your majesty. Her voice. The sound struck him like lightning. He knew that voice. Even after 6 years. Even after endless nights trying to forget it. No, he whispered. She looked up. I beg your pardon. Who are you really? I already answered. You look like someone I once knew. I am not that person. Her reply came quickly. Too quickly. Prince Leo clung to her dress. Please do not leave, Mama. Tears filled the child's eyes. The woman froze. A strange sadness crossed her face. She slowly knelt before him. I am not your mother, little prince. But the boy shook his head. You are. She touched his hair gently. A look of pain flashed through her eyes. Then she turned and ran. Stop her, Damon ordered. Guards chased after her. They ran through the market. Through the narrow streets. Past the sleeping shops. But the mysterious woman disappeared like smoke. She was gone. An hour later the palace remained awake. Servants whispered in corners. Guards searched every road leading from the city. The physicians checked Prince Leo again and again. The child was safe. But Damon was not. He stood alone in his chamber. Rain tapped softly against the windows. A fire burned in the hearth. Yet he felt cold. Very cold. A knock sounded at the door. Enter. Beta Victor Ravencrest stepped inside. The prince is resting, he said. Damon nodded. Neither man spoke for several moments. Finally Victor broke the silence. You think the girl was Lyra? Damon looked at him. Did you not think the same? Victor's face remained calm. Dead women do not return. The answer came too fast. Too firm. Damon studied him. Find her, he said. Victor frowned. Oui. Because my son called her mother. Children say strange things. Find her. Victor bowed his head. As you command. But before leaving he looked strangely unsettled. Almost frightened. The door closed. Silence returned. Damon walked toward his son's room. Prince Leo was awake. The boy sat beneath his blankets. I cannot sleep, he said softly. Why not? I want the river lady. Damon sat beside him. You do not know her. Yes, I do. Leo placed his small hand over his heart. I know her here. The words sent a chill through the Alpha King. Then the boy looked up. Father. Why was she crying? Damon's breath caught. What do you mean? When she looked at you. The Alpha could not answer. Because he had seen the tears too. The same tears he remembered from years ago. The tears of a broken mate. Eventually Leo fell asleep. Damon remained beside the bed. Then something caught his eye. A silver chain rested beneath the blanket. He picked it up. The moment he saw it his hand began to shake. A moon-shaped pendant. He knew it. He had bought it himself. He had placed it around Lyra's neck on the day they became mates. She never removed it. Not once. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air grew heavy. He stared at the pendant for a long time. Then he whispered a name he had not spoken in 6 years. Lyra. Far beyond the palace walls a lone woman stood in the darkness. Moonlight touched her silver hair. Tears slid down her cheeks. She looked toward the castle. Toward the man who had once been her entire world. Then she placed a hand over her heart. I came back, she whispered. But this time everything will change. And hidden beneath her cloak was another small hand. A little girl stepped forward. Her silver blue eyes shone beneath the moon. Mama, she asked softly. Is that my father? Lyra closed her eyes. Storm was coming. And the kingdom had no idea that its lost Luna had returned with a secret powerful enough to destroy everything. The little girl waited for an answer. Moonlight covered the empty street. The cold wind played with her silver hair. Lyra looked at the castle rising above the city. Its towers were exactly the same. Its walls were exactly the same. But she was not. 6 years had changed everything. She slowly knelt before the child. The little girl touched her mother's cheek. You are crying again, Mama. Lyra smiled softly and wiped away the tears. Sometimes old memories hurt. The girl looked toward the palace. Is he really my father? Lyra could not speak for a moment. Finally she nodded. The little girl's eyes grew wide. Then why does he not live with us? The question struck like an arrow. Because sometimes people make terrible mistakes. Did he make one? Lyra looked at the castle again. A very terrible one. The little girl slipped her hand into hers. Will he hurt us? Never. The answer came quickly. Too quickly. Because deep inside she no longer knew the truth. The man she once loved had become a stranger. Come, she whispered. We should leave before sunrise. The little girl nodded. Together they disappeared into the darkness. Far away inside the palace another person could not sleep. Alpha King Daemon sat alone in his chamber. The silver pendant rested in his hand. The moon-shaped charm reflected the firelight. He remembered the day he gave it to her. She had laughed, then thrown her arms around his neck. I will wear it forever, she had said. Forever. The word now felt like a knife. A knock sounded. Come in. An old servant entered carrying tea. Your Majesty, you should rest. Daemon looked at the woman. Tell me something. She bowed her head. Anything. Do you remember Lyra? The servant looked surprised. Course. What kind of woman was she? The old servant smiled sadly. Kind one. She helped everyone. She stayed awake all night whenever someone was sick. She fed the stray pups in the village. She made the servants laugh. Daemon looked down. And did she ever lie? The servant blinked. Never. Silence filled the room. Then she looked at him carefully. Why ask about her now? 'Cause tonight I saw a ghost. The servant frowned. When she left the palace that day she kept saying she was innocent. Daemon closed his eyes. Remember. She begged you to believe her. The servant immediately lowered her head. Forgive me, Your Majesty. But Daemon did not send her away. Because every word reopened an old wound. The wound had never truly healed. When the servant left the room he remained alone. Then memories began to rise. 6 years earlier, the palace courtyard had been full of people. Rain poured from the sky. Lyra stood in the center wearing a white dress. She looked frightened. Beta Victor stood beside Daemon. Your Majesty, I saw her myself. She met with enemy spies. She gave them our battle plans. The crowd gasped. Lyra shook her head desperately. Well, I did no such thing. Victor's face looked full of pain. I wish I were wrong. Daemon stared at his mate. His heart wanted to believe her. But the evidence was everywhere. The stolen maps. The witness statements. The secret meetings. Lyra stepped toward him. Daemon, please. Look at me. I would never betray you. He looked into her eyes. And for one terrible moment he almost believed her. Then Victor handed him a letter. The letter carried her seal. Contained military secrets. Daemon felt his anger explode. Wait, I did not write that. You expect me to believe this? Please. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm your mate. Trust me. But the entire kingdom was watching. The Alpha King could not appear weak. Could not ignore treason. The pain in his heart turned into fury. I reject you. Silence. Even the rain seemed to stop. Lyra's face lost all color. No, she whispered. I reject you as my mate and banish you from this kingdom forever. She looked at him as if he had struck her. Then she slowly fell to her knees. Daemon, please. Love you. Please listen. But he turned away. The crowd watched as the guards approached her. She cried his name again. 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 He never looked back. The memory shattered. Daemon opened his eyes. His hands were shaking. He had not remembered that day in years. Now every detail felt fresh. Every tear. Every word. Every cry. Another memory followed. Later that same night he had stood outside her empty chamber. A servant had entered. Your Majesty. What is it? Lady Lyra left something behind. The servant had handed him a small knitted blanket. Tiny blanket. For a child. Daemon frowned. Why would she have this? The servant smiled. Because she was going to tell you tomorrow. Tell me what? That she is carrying your child. The memory ended. Damon's entire body froze. His breathing stopped. Whoa. That could not be right. He remembered now. He remembered the blanket. He remembered the servant's words. His mate had been pregnant. And he had sent her away. A cold wave of horror spread through him. Child. His child. He stumbled to his feet. There had been no reports of a baby. No grave. No body. Nothing. What if she survived? What if she had given birth? A knock sounded again. Victor entered. The search continues, he said. No sign of the girl. Damon stared at him. Did you know? Victor frowned. Know what? That Lyra was pregnant. For the first time in years the beta looked surprised. Pregnant? Victor slowly shook his head. Well, Damon said nothing. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Then suddenly another thought entered his mind. If Lyra had been carrying his child, then why had Prince Leo called the mysterious woman mother? The pieces did not fit. Not yet. But somewhere hidden inside the darkness was a terrible truth. At that same moment outside the city walls, Lyra stood before a small cottage. He pushed open the door. A fire burned inside. An older woman waited there. Queen Aurora, the ruler of the Hidden Moon Kingdom. She looked up the moment Lyra entered. You saw him? Lyra nodded. She closed her eyes. Nothing is simple anymore. The queen's gaze softened. Then the little girl stepped forward. Grandmother. The queen smiled and opened her arms. The child ran to her. Then Lyra whispered the words she feared most. He remembers me. The queen's smile disappeared. And the boy. He called me mother. Silence filled the room. The fire crackled softly. Then Queen Aurora looked at Lyra with troubled eyes. The time for hiding may be ending. Lyra's hand moved to her chest. Because she knew exactly what that meant. The secret she had protected for 6 years could no longer stay buried. And if the Alpha King discovered the truth, he would learn something that could change both their lives forever. He had not lost one child. He had lost 2. The fire burned low inside the cottage. No one spoke. The words still hung in the air. You had 2 children. Lyra stood motionless. She had carried that secret for 6 long years. 6 years of fear. 6 years of grief. 6 years of wondering whether one of her babies was dead or alive. Little Celine slept beside the fireplace with a blanket around her shoulders. Her silver hair glowed in the firelight. Queen Aurora watched her granddaughter carefully. Then she turned toward Lyra. You cannot hide forever. Lyra lowered her eyes. No. The queen walked closer. The Alpha King has seen your face. The boy has recognized you. Soon he will start asking questions. He already has. Then the truth is moving toward us whether we are ready or not. Lyra looked at her sleeping daughter. I promised myself I would never return. And yet you did. A soft smile touched the queen's lips. Because your heart never truly left this kingdom. The words hurt because they were true. Lyra had tried to forget. She had tried to bury every memory of Damon. The sound of his voice. The warmth of his hands. The dreams they once shared. But some loves do not die. They simply become scars. The queen reached out and touched her cheek. Tell me what happened tonight. Lyra closed her eyes. You saw him. He looked exactly the same. The answer came as a whisper. The same golden eyes. The same face. For a moment I forgot everything. Then I remembered the day he rejected me. Silence returned. The queen's expression softened. You still love him. Lyra looked away. I should not. But you do. Tears gathered in her eyes. I hate myself for it. The queen wrapped her arms around her. No child of mine will ever be ashamed of her heart. Lyra rested her head against her mother's shoulder. For many years she had dreamed of this. A mother. Family. A place where she belonged. She had found all of it after losing everything. Her thoughts drifted back. Back to the winter night 6 years ago. She remembered the snow. the freezing wind, the endless darkness. She had been walking for hours after leaving the kingdom. No food, no shelter, no hope. Her hands rested over her stomach. She had whispered to the babies growing inside her, "Do not be afraid. Mama is here." She had tried to stay strong, but her body had become weak. The snow kept falling. Soon she could no longer feel her feet. Then came the pain, sharp and terrible. She had fallen to her knees. "Not now," she whispered. "Please, not now." But the babies had chosen that night. Alone in the middle of a frozen forest, she had gone into labor. Fear had swallowed her. She had screamed. Then darkness took her. When she opened her eyes again, she was inside a warm room. Fire burned nearby. A beautiful woman with silver hair sat beside her bed. Queen Aurora. At that time Lyra did not know who she was. "You are safe," the woman had said. "Where are my babies?" The queen's smile had faded. "You have a daughter." Relief had flooded through her. "And the other baby?" Silence. The queen had lowered her gaze. "Our soldiers found only one child. The other was gone. The world had stopped." What do you mean gone?" "We searched the forest. There was no sign of the second baby." Lyra had screamed. She had cried until no tears remained. For weeks she refused to leave her bed. She believed her son had died. Then one day everything changed. The queen entered carrying an old wooden box. Inside lay a silver crown. "There is something you need to know." She had opened the box slowly. "Years ago I had a daughter. The child was stolen by our enemies. The only thing left behind was this." The queen had shown her a moon-shaped birthmark painted inside the box. The same mark that rested on Lyra's shoulder. The queen's hands had trembled. "You are my daughter. You are the lost princess of the Moon Kingdom." The memory faded. Lyra looked at the woman standing before her now. "The first time you told me I thought you were mistaken." The queen smiled softly. "You still did not believe me after 3 months. I thought I was only an Omega." "You were never an Omega. You were born with royal blood. You were born to lead." Lyra laughed quietly. "I certainly did not act like a princess." "Well, you acted like something much better. A survivor." The room fell silent. Then the queen looked at her carefully. "Do you remember the first thing I told you after bringing you here?" Lyra nodded. "Stand up. Learn. Become strong enough that no one can ever break you again." "And did you?" A small smile touched Lyra's face. She walked toward the corner of the room. A sword rested there. She lifted it easily. The frightened Omega girl no longer existed. Years of training had changed her. She had learned to fight, to lead, to survive. The queen looked proud. The kingdom once cast out a broken woman. Now it fears a queen and does not even know it. A soft sound interrupted them. Little Celine had awakened. She rubbed her eyes and walked toward her mother. "Mama." Lyra immediately knelt. "What is it, my moonbeam?" The child climbed into her lap. "I had the dream again." Lyra's heart tightened. A dream. The same dream that came every month. A little boy standing alone. A little boy with golden eyes. A little boy calling for help. Celine touched her mother's face. "I think my brother is alive." Silence. The queen and Lyra exchanged a glance. Children often know things adults cannot explain. "Do you really think so?" The little girl nodded. "Can feel him." The fire crackled softly. A strange chill moved through the room. Then the queen spoke. "There is something I have never told you." Lyra looked up. "The night your son disappeared, our soldiers found something." The queen reached into her robe. She pulled out a tiny piece of blue cloth. "This was wrapped around your missing child." Lyra's hands trembled. "I remember it. There is more." The queen unfolded the cloth. A symbol had been stitched into one corner. Black Wolf. Lyra's breathing stopped. She knew that symbol. Every person in the kingdom knew it. Because it belonged to only one family. The royal house of Blackthorn. Damon's family. Her fingers tightened around the cloth. "Well." The queen's eyes darkened. Someone from the Alpha King's kingdom was there that night. Someone took your son. The room suddenly felt cold. Very cold. At that exact moment in the palace, Prince Leo woke from sleep. Moonlight poured through his window. He sat up slowly. Then he looked at the door. Someone was standing there. Shadow. Watching him. The figure stepped forward. And Prince Leo smiled. Because somehow he knew this person. The stranger whispered only 3 words. Come with me, Prince. And the child climbed out of bed. Prince Leo slipped out of his bed without making a sound. The moon painted his room in silver light. The shadow standing by the door seemed familiar. Not frightening. Not dangerous. The little boy tilted his head. Who are you? The stranger stepped closer. A dark cloak covered his face. I know someone who misses you very much. Leo blinked. The stranger smiled. Come with me and you may see her again. The child did not hesitate. He had been thinking about the river lady every moment since she disappeared. He climbed from his bed and walked toward the door. The stranger took his hand. Their footsteps vanished into the sleeping palace. Outside the room a guard stood at his post. The cloaked figure raised one hand. A strange powder floated through the air. The guard's eyes grew heavy. Moments later he collapsed. The stranger and the prince disappeared into the darkness. Far away beyond the city walls, Lyra could not sleep. She stood outside the cottage beneath the stars. The night felt strange. Too quiet. The wind carried a feeling she could not explain. She placed her hand over her heart. Something was wrong. The door opened behind her. Queen Aurora stepped outside. You feel it too? Lyra nodded slowly. Cannot explain it. The queen looked toward the distant kingdom. Sometimes a mother can hear the cry of her child even across great distances. Chill moved through Lyra. She suddenly remembered Celine's dream. A little boy standing alone. A little boy calling for help. The thought made her chest tighten. Behind them the cottage door opened again. Little Celine stepped outside wearing her blanket. Why are you awake, my moonbeam? The little girl looked frightened. I had the dream again. Lyra immediately knelt before her. What happened? This time the boy was crying. The queen's face darkened. He said he was afraid. Silence filled the night. Then Celine looked toward the kingdom. I think my brother needs us. The words struck like thunder. At that same moment inside the palace, Alpha King Damon woke with a start. A strange feeling had pulled him from sleep. The room felt wrong. He rose from his bed and walked into the hallway. A guard lay unconscious on the floor. Damon's heart stopped. He rushed toward Leo's room. The bed was empty. The blankets were cold. His roar shook the palace. Guards. The entire castle exploded into movement. Torches lit the corridors. Soldiers ran in every direction. Damon stood in the middle of the room breathing hard. His son was gone. Again. A hand touched his shoulder. Beta Victor had arrived. What happened? Someone took Leo. Victor's eyes widened. When? I do not know. Damon looked at the sleeping guard. The man had been drugged. Who would dare do this? The Alpha's eyes turned cold. Find my son. Every soldier in the kingdom moved that night. Doors were broken open. Carriages were searched. Roads were blocked. Yet Prince Leo seemed to have vanished like smoke. Hours later dawn began to paint the sky. No one had found him. Damon stood in the courtyard. He looked as though he had aged years in one night. Victor approached him. There is still no sign. Damon clenched his fists. Then I will search myself. Before he could move, another voice called his name. A young servant hurried across the courtyard. Your Majesty. What is it? The servant held something in his hands. We found this outside the prince's room. Damon took it. A small piece of blue cloth. His breath caught. He had seen this color before. But where? Then suddenly he remembered. The river woman. The mysterious Omega had worn a blue ribbon beneath her sleeve. Could she have taken Leo? The thought felt wrong. She had saved his life. Why would she harm him? Victor looked at the cloth. Do you know it? Damon hesitated. Well, but deep inside he was not certain. Far away on the edge of the forest a carriage stopped. The cloaked stranger opened the door. Prince Leo looked around. Where are we? The stranger smiled. You are safe. This is not Mama's house. Well, but you will see someone interesting. The stranger removed his hood. Leo blinked. He recognized the man. Uncle Victor. The beta smiled warmly. Hello, little prince. Why are we here? Victor helped him out of the carriage. 'Cause there are things you need to learn. The child frowned. I want my father. And Mama too. The smile on Victor's face slowly faded. The river woman is not your mother. Yes, she is. The answer came immediately. Victor crouched before him. Listen to me carefully. Some people lie. The child crossed his arms. Mama does not lie. Something dark flashed in Victor's eyes. He looked at the boy for a long moment. Then he smiled again. Course. He took Leo's hand. I have a surprise for you. They walked deeper into the forest. The trees grew thicker. The sunlight barely reached the ground. At last they reached an old stone cabin. The door opened. A young man stepped outside. He looked about 16. Dark hair. Golden eyes. The moment he saw Leo he froze. The prince stopped walking. The two boys stared at each other. They looked strangely similar. Almost like brothers. The young man looked at Victor. Who is this? Victor smiled. A very important guest. Leo looked confused. Why does he look like me? The older boy looked just as confused. Victor's smile widened. 'Cause Destiny likes strange games. Far away in the cottage Celine suddenly sat upright. Her eyes were wide. Mama. Lyra rushed to her. What is it? I saw him. My brother. The little girl pointed toward the east. He is in the forest. Lyra's blood turned cold. The queen stepped forward. Are you sure? Celine nodded. And he is not alone. A tear rolled down her cheek. He is with another boy. Silence. The queen looked at Lyra. Time has come. Lyra's hands trembled. 6 years. 6 years of searching. 6 years of wondering. Was it possible? Could her son truly be alive? She looked toward the kingdom. Then toward the dark forest beyond it. A strange fire awakened inside her. Not fear. Not hope. Something stronger. A mother's certainty. She slowly stood. Prepare the horses. The queen looked into her eyes. You know where to go. Well. Lyra placed a hand over her heart. But somehow I know where my child is. As the first rays of sunlight touched the earth, she stepped toward the waiting horses. She had returned to this kingdom seeking answers. Now she was riding toward the greatest truth of her life. Because somewhere inside the forest her lost son was waiting. And he had no idea that his mother was finally coming for him. The horses raced through the forest. Branches whipped past Lyra's face. The cold morning wind tangled her silver hair. She rode ahead of everyone. Queen Aurora and her guards struggled to keep up. Fear burned inside her chest. Every heartbeat carried only one thought. My son is alive. She had dreamed of this moment for 6 years. Prayed for it. Cried for it. Now that it might finally be real, she could hardly breathe. Beside her Celine held tightly to the saddle. The little girl looked straight ahead. I can still feel him, Mama. Is he afraid? Little. Lyra's hands tightened around the reins. Then we must hurry. Far away in the stone cabin another child stood just as frightened. Prince Leo stared at the older boy. The young man looked almost like him. The same dark hair. The same golden eyes. Even the shape of his face seemed familiar. The older boy frowned. Who are you? I am Prince Leo. The young man's eyes widened. Prince. Leo nodded. Who are you? The boy hesitated. My name is Adrian. Before either of them could speak again, Victor stepped between them. You two should get to know each other. Leo looked around the cabin. I want to go home. I want my father. I want my mother. Victor's smile disappeared for a brief moment. Then he placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. You ask too many questions. The little prince stepped away. Father says asking questions is how people learn. Victor laughed softly. Your father taught you well. But not everything. The older boy watched the exchange silently. Something about it felt wrong. Very wrong. He had lived with Victor for years. The beta had raised him, fed him, trained him. Yet the man had never smiled this much before. Adrian looked at Leo again. Why do you look like me? Victor turned toward the window. 'Cause fate enjoys strange games. The answer made no sense. Outside the cabin guards stood watch. The forest was silent. Too silent. Back in the palace, Alpha King Daemon had not slept. He stood in the war room staring at a map. Every road had been searched. Every village questioned. Nothing. No sign of Leo. A knock sounded. Come in. An elderly maid entered slowly. Your Majesty. What is it? I remembered something. Daemon looked up. The maid wrung her hands nervously. It is about Lady Lyra. The name struck him like a blow. Go on. Years ago when she was carrying her child she used to walk in the royal gardens every morning. Daemon frowned. Why tell me this now? Because one day I heard her talking to the baby. His breathing stopped. She called the child a son. Silence filled the room. Son. Not a daughter. Not a child. Son. The maid's eyes filled with tears. She loved that little boy even before he was born. She knitted tiny blankets for him. She sang to him. She said he had your eyes. The room seemed to spin. Daemon slowly sat down. Son. Somewhere out there he might have a son. And if Lyra had survived, then where was the child? The maid wiped her eyes. I often wonder what became of them. When she left the palace she looked so happy because she planned to tell you about the baby that evening. The words shattered something inside him. Happy. She had been happy. And he had destroyed everything. The maid bowed and left. Daemon remained alone. For the first time in years he let himself remember. He remembered their first meeting. A shy Omega girl carrying flowers. Her laugh. Her smile. The way she looked at him as though he were the entire world. He remembered the day they became mates. She had cried from happiness. Then he remembered the last day. Her kneeling in the rain. Her hands shaking. Her voice breaking as she begged him to believe her. I am innocent, Daemon. Please. The memory cut so deeply that he could barely breathe. He covered his face with his hands. What have I done? A knock interrupted his thoughts. Victor entered. Still no news. Daemon looked up. There is something I need to ask you. Victor nodded. Course. Did you know Lyra was carrying my child? For the first time something flickered in the beta's eyes. Only for a second. Then it was gone. Well, Daemon stood. Are you certain? I would remember such news. The alpha studied him carefully. Something felt strange. Victor never looked away. Never hesitated. Today he seemed uneasy. You trusted me once, Your Majesty. Why question me now? Because everything I believed 6 years ago may have been a lie. The room became silent. Victor slowly smiled. Grief is dangerous. Makes people see ghosts. Daemon took a step forward. Did I make a mistake? The beta's face remained calm. You protected your kingdom. Then why does it feel as though I destroyed it? Victor said nothing. The silence itself felt like an answer. Later that afternoon Daemon entered the room that had once belonged to Lyra. No one had touched it in years. Dust covered everything. The curtains hung motionless. A faint scent of lavender still lingered in the air. He walked slowly. His fingers brushed the old furniture. Then he stopped. A small wooden box rested inside a drawer. He opened it. Inside lay tiny baby clothes. A knitted blanket. And a letter. His hands trembled. The letter was unfinished. He unfolded it carefully. My beloved Daemon. There is something wonderful I need to tell you tonight. We are going to be parents. I think our son already has your stubbornness because he kicks every morning. I cannot wait to see your face when I tell you. I think this will be the happiest day of our lives. The words blurred. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in many years, Alpha King Daemon Blackthorn cried. Not as a king. Not as an alpha. But as a man who finally understood what he had lost. Mate. Child. Family. A knock sounded. One of his soldiers rushed inside. Your Majesty. Daemon quickly stood. What is it? We found a witness. A witness to what happened 6 years ago. His heart pounded. Where? At the old mill outside the city. Daemon left immediately. The journey felt endless. By the time he reached the mill, the sun had begun to set. The place was empty. Too empty. A soldier approached him slowly. We found him inside. Daemon entered the mill. A man lay on the floor. A knife rested in his chest. Beside the body was a torn piece of cloth. Black. The same cloth worn by Beta Victor's personal guards. The Alpha stared at it. His blood turned cold. Then he noticed something else. The dying man had scratched a single word into the wooden floor. Victor. Silence filled the mill. A terrible truth finally began to rise from the shadows. And for the first time in 6 years, Alpha King Daemon realized that the enemy he had been hunting might have been standing beside him all along. The old mill felt colder than winter. Alpha King Daemon stood over the dead man and stared at the words scratched into the wooden floor. Victor. Only 5 letters. Yet they carried enough weight to shake an entire kingdom. The wind slipped through the broken windows and made the lantern flames dance. The dead witness had been trying to say something before his final breath. Someone had silenced him. Someone had reached him first. Daemon slowly knelt. The blood around the body was still fresh. This had happened only moments ago. He clenched his jaw. He was too late again. One of his soldiers stepped forward. Your Majesty. Daemon did not move. Send everyone outside. The soldier looked surprised. Soon the mill was empty. Silence returned. Daemon remained beside the body. His thoughts raced. 6 years ago, Victor had brought him the evidence against Lyra. Victor had convinced him she was a traitor. Victor had been there every step of the way. A strange memory suddenly surfaced. The night Lyra was banished, Victor had looked almost relieved. At the time, Daemon had not noticed. Now he remembered. Every detail. Every expression. A cold feeling crawled up his spine. Oh, please no. He stood and looked once more at the word on the floor. Victor. His oldest friend. The man he trusted more than anyone. Could he truly have destroyed everything? Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Storm was coming. Far away in the forest, another storm was already beginning. Prince Leo sat near the fireplace inside the cabin. He missed his father. He missed the palace. More than anything, he missed the river lady. Across from him, Adrian watched quietly. The older boy had not spoken for a long time. Finally, he broke the silence. Are you really a prince? Leo nodded. Do you have a big castle? The biggest? Adrian smiled faintly. I have never seen a castle. Leo looked surprised. Really? Victor says I live here because it is safer. Something about those words made Leo frown. Safer from what? Adrian shrugged. I do not know. The prince studied him carefully. You seem sad. The older boy looked into the fire. Sometimes I dream about a woman. A woman with silver hair. Leo's eyes widened. Like my mama. Adrian looked up. Your mother has silver hair. The river lady does. Think she is my mother. Victor says she is not. The older boy became very still. I dream about a woman like that too. Silence filled the cabin. The two boys stared at each other. Then Leo smiled. Maybe she is your mother too. Adrian laughed softly. That would be strange. Neither of them noticed the shadow standing outside the door. Victor had heard every word. His face darkened. The time for secrets was ending. He could feel it. He slowly walked away from the cabin and entered another room. A map lay spread across a table. Beside it rested a crown. Not the royal crown. A different one. A crown he had secretly made years ago. the crown he intended to wear. For 30 years he had lived in the shadow of kings. He had served, obeyed, waited, no more. The kingdom should have been his. Power should have been his. Everything should have been his. Then Damon met Lyra. And suddenly the Alpha had everything. Love, mate, heir. Victor had hated them both for it. He looked at the crown. Very soon, a knock sounded. One of his guards entered. My lord, what is it? The woman has entered the forest. Victor slowly smiled. Lyra. She is not alone. Who is with her? The Moon Queen and her soldiers. The smile disappeared. So the rumors were true. The lost Omega had become something far more dangerous. Princess. Perhaps even a queen. Victor looked toward the window. Then everything must happen tonight. The guard bowed. What about the boys? Victor's eyes turned cold. Bring them. The guard hesitated. Both of them. The man quickly left. Victor picked up his sword. At last all the pieces were moving. Meanwhile Lyra and Queen Aurora rode through the forest. The sky had turned dark. Rain began to fall. The horses slowed. Then suddenly Celine raised her head. Everyone froze. The little girl pointed ahead. He is close. Lyra's heart pounded. She climbed from her horse. The air felt strange. Heavy. Then she heard it. Child laughing. Ran. Branches scratched her arms. Rain soaked her clothes. Again she heard the sound. Closer this time. She burst through the trees and stopped. A small clearing opened before her. Prince Leo stood there. He was laughing while chasing fireflies. The moment he saw her he gasped. Uma. The word broke something inside her. She ran to him. The little boy threw himself into her arms. She held him tightly. Tears spilled down her face. You are safe. I knew you would come. The child smiled at her. Missed you. She kissed his forehead. Then another voice spoke. Who are you? Lyra looked up. The second boy stood beneath the trees. Her breath caught. The world seemed to stop. Dark hair. Golden eyes. Her eyes. Damon's eyes. Her heart knew before her mind did. Boy. Her son. For 6 years she had imagined this moment. Yet nothing could have prepared her. The boy stared at her. Why are you crying? She could not answer. Her knees weakened. Then she whispered one word. Adrian. The boy frowned. How do you know my name? 'Cause I gave it to you. Silence. Rain continued to fall. The little prince looked between them. Do you know each other? Tears streamed down Lyra's face. The older boy took one uncertain step forward. Have we met before? Oh. Her voice trembled. But I have waited my whole life to meet you. The boy looked confused. Then he noticed something. The moon-shaped birthmark on her shoulder. His eyes widened. He had the same mark. Before anyone could speak, another voice cut through the clearing. What a beautiful reunion. Everyone turned. Victor stepped from the shadows. Armed men surrounded the clearing. The rain grew heavier. Adrian looked shocked. Father. Victor smiled. I am not your father. The words hit like thunder. The boy froze. Then who am I? Victor's gaze moved toward Lyra. Ask your mother. Silence spread across the clearing. The truth was finally standing in the open. Victor looked at Lyra and smiled. Did you really think your son simply vanished? Her eyes filled with fury. You took him. You saved him. You stole him. The answer came without shame. 6 years ago I found your newborn son in the snow. I could have left him there. Instead I raised him. Because I needed an heir. Because one day I intended to become king. Adrian looked horrified. Victor's eyes shone with madness. You were meant to sit on the throne beside me. Then he looked at Prince Leo. But fate had another idea. He slowly drew his sword. Now I have 2 royal heirs. And an entire kingdom ready to burn for them. The clearing fell silent. Then Victor smiled. Tonight a king will lose everything. Rain poured through the clearing. Thunder rolled above the trees. Victor stood with his sword in hand while his soldiers surrounded everyone. No one moved. No one breathed. Little Prince Leo clung to Lyra's dress. Adrian stood frozen. The world he knew had just shattered. You lied to me. His voice was barely a whisper. Victor looked at him calmly. I gave you a home. You said you were my father. I raised you. That is not the same thing. Pain filled Adrian's eyes. For 16 years he had followed this man. Trusted him. Loved him. And now everything was a lie. Lyra stepped in front of both boys. Stay behind me. Victor laughed softly. Still protecting everyone. Some things never change. Her silver eyes burned. You stole my son. You saved him. You stole his life. Victor's smile slowly faded. I gave him purpose. You gave him loneliness. For the first time anger flashed across his face. You know nothing. I know exactly who you are. The rain dripped from her hair. A man who could never become king. A man so jealous that he destroyed innocent lives. Silence. Even the soldiers looked uneasy. Victor's face hardened. Be careful, princess. The title made everyone freeze. Adrian blinked. Princess. Prince Leo looked up. Mama, you are a princess. Lyra said nothing. Victor smiled again. They do not know. Then perhaps they should. He looked toward Adrian. Your mother is not an Omega. She is the lost princess of the Moon Kingdom. Adrian stared at Lyra. The beautiful woman before him suddenly looked different. Not because of a crown. Not because of royal blood. But because when she looked at him her eyes were full of love. A kind of love he had never seen before. The kind only a mother could give. Tears gathered in his eyes. You are really my mother. Lyra stepped toward him. The boy's lips trembled. You came looking for me. Every day. Every single day. Her voice broke. I never stopped. The words shattered the last wall around his heart. Slowly he walked toward her. Then suddenly he threw his arms around her. Mother. Lyra held him tightly. The years of pain. The endless searching. The empty nights. Everything broke apart. She cried openly. Found you. Finally found you. Beside them little Leo smiled. I told everyone she was Mama. The moment lasted only seconds. Then Victor's voice cut through the rain. Enough. The soldiers raised their weapons. The children stepped back. Victor looked at Lyra. I had hoped you would stay hidden. You should have left this kingdom and never returned. Came back for my son. Then you will die beside him. He lifted his sword. But the clearing exploded. Moon Kingdom warriors rushed forward. Steel clashed. The forest filled with shouting. Queen Aurora stepped from the trees with her guards. Her silver cloak flowed behind her. You dare threaten my daughter. Victor's face darkened. The Moon Queen herself. I should feel honored. The queen drew her sword. You should feel afraid. The battle began. Lyra pulled the boys behind a large stone. Stay here. Mother. No matter what happens, do not move. Adrian grabbed her hand. Please be careful. A soft smile touched her lips. I just found you. I have no intention of leaving again. Then she turned. The frightened Omega who once cried in the rain was gone. In her place stood the princess of the Moon Kingdom. She picked up a fallen sword. Victor laughed. You plan to fight me. I plan to end this. They charged. Their swords collided. Sparks flew. Victor stumbled backward. Surprise crossed his face. You learned to fight. I learned to survive. Again she attacked. Again. Again. Every strike carried 6 years of pain. 6 years of grief. 6 years of waiting. Victor blocked her blows, but slowly his smile disappeared. She was stronger than he expected. Faster. Deadlier. A warrior. Not the broken woman he once destroyed. Far away another rider raced through the forest. Alpha King Damon. He had followed the trail himself. His horse moved like lightning. Then he heard it. The sound of battle. He urged his horse faster. Moments later he burst into the clearing. The sight before him stole his breath. Fire. Rain. Soldiers fighting. And in the center of it all stood Lyra. sword in hand, silver hair shining beneath the storm. She looked like a queen. Their eyes met. For one long moment the battle disappeared. Only the two of them remained. Then Prince Leo's voice broke the silence. "Father." Daemon looked toward the stone. His son was alive. Relief nearly brought him to his knees. Then he saw another boy standing beside Leo. A boy with his eyes, his face, his blood. The Alpha froze. The world seemed to stop. Victor saw his expression and smiled. "Now you understand." Daemon looked at Adrian. "Well, your son. The son you never knew existed. The son you rejected before he was even born." The words hit harder than any blade. Daemon could barely breathe. His son. He had a son. And he had lost 16 years with him. Adrian looked at the Alpha King with wide eyes. "You are my father." Daemon took one step forward. The words would not come. There was too much pain. Too much regret. Then Victor moved. Faster than anyone expected. He grabbed Prince Leo and placed a dagger against the boy's throat. Everyone froze. "Drop your weapons." Silence fell. Rain continued to pour. Leo looked terrified. "Father." Daemon's face turned white. "Let him go." Victor smiled. "Well." He slowly backed away. "Tonight I leave with both heirs." No one moved. No one dared. Then he looked at Lyra. "This is your fault. You should have stayed dead." He turned toward the trees. At that exact moment a deep horn echoed through the forest. Once. 3 times. Everyone looked up. Then another sound followed. Thousands of footsteps. Torches appeared between the trees. Then banners. Silver banners marked with a glowing moon. An entire army emerged from the darkness. The Moon Kingdom had arrived. Victor's smile slowly disappeared. Queen Aurora looked at him coldly. "Did you really think my daughter would come alone?" Thousands of soldiers surrounded the clearing. There was nowhere left to run. But Victor's eyes suddenly gleamed with madness. He pressed the dagger closer to Leo's throat. And then he whispered words that chilled everyone. "If I cannot have the kingdom, then I will burn it to the ground." The forest became silent. Rain still fell from the sky, but no one moved. Victor held the dagger against Prince Leo's throat. The child was trembling. Alpha King Daemon took a step forward. "Do not hurt him." Victor laughed. For the first time in his life the great Alpha King looked helpless. Pleased him. "You should have listened to me years ago." Daemon's hands curled into fists. "This has nothing to do with the boy. Everything has to do with the boy." Victor's eyes were wild now. "Everything has to do with heirs and crowns and blood." He looked toward Adrian. "I raised one prince. I stole another. The throne should have been mine." The Moon Kingdom soldiers slowly tightened their circle around him. There was nowhere to run. Yet Victor looked almost happy. Like a man with nothing left to lose. Then Lyra stepped forward. Her face was calm. "Let him go." Victor smiled. "You still think you can save everyone?" "Well, cannot. I took everything from you once. Can do it again." The old pain returned for only a moment. The rain. The rejection. Exile. The lonely nights. The cries she hid from her daughter. Then it passed. Because she was no longer the broken Omega who had left this kingdom 6 years ago. She raised her chin. "You already took everything from me once. And I survived." Victor's smile faded. "I survived the cold. I survived heartbreak. I survived losing my child." Her voice grew stronger. "You threw me away and expected me to disappear. Instead I became stronger." The forest was so quiet that every word echoed. "You thought I would spend my life crying. Instead I came back as someone you cannot destroy." The soldiers watched her in silence. Even Daemon could not look away. She seemed to glow beneath the rain. Like moonlight itself. Victor's grip on the dagger tightened. "Stop talking." "Well." She took another step. "You wanted power because you believed a crown would make you important. But a crown does not create a king. It reveals the man beneath it. And beneath your dreams there is only fear." The words struck their mark. Victor's face twisted with rage. Silence. Then Adrian stepped forward. Father. Victor looked at him. Do not call me that. The boy's voice shook. I trusted you. Victor said nothing. I loved you. For a brief moment pain crossed the older man's face. Then it vanished. Everything was a lie. I gave you a life. You stole my real one. The words hit harder than any sword. Adrian's eyes filled with tears. You took me away from my mother. You let her suffer for 16 years. Victor slowly lowered his gaze. I did it for us. Well, the boy shook his head. You did it for yourself. The rain grew heavier. Prince Leo looked up at Victor. You are a bad man. The simple words made several soldiers lower their heads. Victor looked at the child. I could have been your king. I already have a king. Leo looked toward Damon. And I have a mother too. The little prince smiled at Lyra. The expression broke something inside Victor. Because even after everything he had done, the child still knew where love belonged. Suddenly Victor grabbed Leo and pulled him backward. Enough. The soldiers raised their weapons. No one move. Then Damon stepped forward. Take me instead. Silence. Victor stared at him. Amy. Release my son. A strange smile appeared on Victor's face. The mighty Alpha King wishes to sacrifice himself. I am his father. The words hung in the air. Then Damon looked at Adrian. And I am his father too. The older boy froze. The Alpha's golden eyes filled with regret. Failed both of you. But I will not fail again. For the first time Adrian truly looked at him. Not as a king. Not as a stranger. But as the man who had given him life. Victor laughed. How touching. Then his expression hardened. Well, I want all of you to suffer. He raised the dagger. Everything happened at once. A silver blur moved through the rain. Lyra. She rushed forward faster than anyone could follow. Her sword flashed. Victor cried out. The dagger flew from his hand. Prince Leo ran. Damon caught his son and held him tightly. At the same time Adrian stepped toward Victor. The older man stared at his bleeding arm. Shock filled his face. He looked at Lyra. You were never supposed to become this strong. She pointed her sword at him. Neither was I supposed to survive. Moon Kingdom soldiers rushed forward and surrounded him. Victor looked around. The battle was over. The game was over. Slowly he dropped to his knees. The rain washed the blood from his hands. Queen Aurora stepped forward. Chain him. The soldiers obeyed. For the first time in years the forest felt calm. Then Damon turned toward Adrian. The boy looked uncertain. As if he did not know where he belonged. The Alpha took one careful step. I do not expect forgiveness. Adrian remained silent. I do not deserve it. Still silence. But if you allow it, I would like to know you. The boy's eyes filled with emotion. You really did not know about me. Well, Damon's voice broke. I swear it. A long moment passed. Then Adrian nodded once. That was enough. Now. As dawn approached, everyone returned to the kingdom. The entire city gathered in the great square. Word had spread. The lost Luna had returned. The missing heir had been found. The traitor had been captured. Thousands of people filled the streets. Victor stood in chains. The people who once admired him now looked at him with disgust. Then Queen Aurora stepped onto the platform. She raised one hand. Today the truth will be known. The crowd became silent. She told them everything. The lies. The betrayal. The stolen child. The false accusations. Every terrible secret. People began to cry. Others lowered their heads in shame. Then Lyra stepped forward. A soft gasp moved through the crowd. Many remembered her. The gentle Omega girl. The woman they had watched walk away in tears. Now she stood before them dressed in blue and silver. Strong. Beautiful. Unbreakable. An old woman suddenly fell to her knees. Forgive us. Another followed. Then another. Soon the entire square knelt before her. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She had imagined returning many times. Never like this. Queen Aurora placed a silver crown upon her head. I present to you Princess Lyra of the Moon Kingdom. The square erupted. Long live the princess. Long live the true Luna. Damon watched her. His heart ached. She had become everything he had failed to see. Then a voice called from the crowd. Vic. Everyone turned. A young warrior stepped forward. He looked barely 20. Dark hair. Gray eyes. There was something strangely familiar about him. He slowly removed his glove. On his wrist was a moon-shaped birthmark. The exact same mark carried by Lyra and Adrian. The young man looked directly at Queen Aurora. I think I belong to your family. Silence crashed over the square. Lyra's heart stopped. Because for the first time in many years another impossible mystery had appeared. And the story of the lost heirs was not over yet. The entire square fell silent. Thousands of people stared at the young warrior standing near the steps. The morning sun had finally broken through the clouds. Its light touched the strange moon-shaped birthmark on his wrist. Lyra's breath caught. Adrian looked just as shocked. Queen Aurora slowly stepped forward. Young man, what is your name? The warrior bowed his head. My name is Rowan. How did you get that mark? I was born with it. A murmur spread through the crowd. Rowan looked around nervously. An old woman raised me in a small village near the eastern mountains. Before she died, she gave me this. He pulled a silver chain from beneath his shirt. A moon-shaped pendant. The same pendant worn by the royal family of the Moon Kingdom. Queen Aurora's hand began to tremble. Where did you get this? She said I was found near the border when I was a baby. The queen looked as though all the strength had left her body. Lyra stepped closer. How old are you? 20. Silence. A terrible and beautiful silence. Then the queen's eyes filled with tears. 20 years ago my younger sister gave birth to a son. The child disappeared during an attack on our kingdom. No body was ever found. Rowan stared at her. The queen slowly lifted her hand. The birthmark. Pendant. Age. My child. Her voice broke. You are my nephew. A gasp swept through the square. Rowan looked completely lost. I do not understand. Queen Aurora climbed down the steps. Tears streamed down her face. Then she wrapped her arms around him. You were stolen from us. You are family. The young warrior stood frozen. No one had ever embraced him like that before. Slowly his hands rose. He hugged her back. The crowd burst into cheers. Another lost child had returned home. Lyra smiled through her tears. The kingdom that had spent years drowning in loss was finally finding its way back to love. Then someone began clapping. Low, cold, mocking. Everyone turned. Victor. Even in chains he was smiling. How touching. His voice echoed across the square. Family reunion. Damon stepped forward. Be silent. Victor laughed. You think this is over? It is. Mo. His eyes shone with madness. You still do not understand. Suddenly one of the guards cried out. Mo. Everyone looked toward the northern hills. Dark smoke rose into the sky. Then another column appeared. And another. Damon's face changed. The border villages. A soldier came running into the square. Your Majesty. V. A group of mercenaries is attacking the kingdom. Panic spread through the crowd. Victor smiled. Told you. If I could not have the kingdom, then I would burn it. Damon looked at him with fury. You planned this. For years. The mercenaries were my final gift. People screamed. Mothers grabbed their children. Soldiers rushed toward the gates. Then Lyra stepped forward. Enough. Her voice cut through the chaos. Everyone became quiet. She looked at Damon. How many soldiers remain in the city? Enough to fight. Then we fight. The old fear was gone from her eyes. Only strength remained. Queen Aurora drew her sword. The Moon Kingdom stands with you. The crowd cheered. Damon looked at Lyra. You would still save this kingdom. She smiled sadly. Because innocent people live here. And because my children deserve peace. The words struck him deeply. He nodded. Then let us end this together. An hour later the kingdom's army stood outside the gates. The enemy approached from the north. Thousands of mercenaries. The earth shook beneath their feet. Adrian stood beside Damon. The young man wore armor for the first time. Nervous, uncertain. Damon looked at him. Afraid. Little. I was too during my first battle. Adrian looked surprised. You were. Terrified. The young man laughed softly. For the first time they smiled at each other. Small beginning. Nearby Leo sat on his horse beside Celine. The two children looked ready to conquer the world. Do not move from the hill, Damon ordered. We promise. The children did not sound convincing. Lyra walked toward Damon. For a long moment neither of them spoke. There were too many things between them. Too many wounds. Too many regrets. Finally he whispered. I'm sorry. She looked at him. For everything. The words trembled. I was blind. Failed you. I failed our children. She said nothing. I do not ask for forgiveness. I only ask for a chance to spend the rest of my life making things right. Silence. Then she gently touched his hand. Survive today. The simple words filled his chest with hope. A horn sounded. The battle had begun. The armies collided. Steel flashed beneath the sun. The noise became thunder. Damon fought like a storm. Lyra moved beside him. Back to back. As they had once trained together long ago. Their movements matched. Perfect. Natural. The enemy slowly fell back. Then suddenly a scream came from the hill. Leo. Lyra turned. One mercenary had slipped through the battle and was racing toward the children. Without thinking she ran. The man raised his sword. Before he could strike, an arrow pierced his shoulder. Rowan. The young warrior lowered his bow. The mercenary fell. Leo ran into his mother's arms. Uma. I'm here. She held him tightly. Then she looked up. The battle was over. The enemy had surrendered. Cheers erupted. The kingdom had survived. As the sun began to set, everyone returned to the city. Torches filled the streets. Flowers covered the ground. People laughed. People cried. For the first time in many years there was peace. That night a grand ceremony took place in the palace courtyard. Queen Aurora stood before the people. Today we celebrate not one kingdom but two. She turned toward Lyra. A daughter has returned. A family has been restored. Queen has risen. The crowd cheered. A silver crown was placed upon Lyra's head. Moonlight touched her face. She looked beautiful, strong, radiant. The broken Omega was gone forever. Queen Lyra stood in her place. Then Damon stepped forward. To everyone's shock, he slowly knelt before her. An alpha king kneeling before a woman. The crowd fell silent. He lowered his head. I rejected you when I should have protected you. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. I lost you because of my own weakness. He lifted his eyes. But if there is even the smallest place left for me in your heart, then I will spend every day earning it. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. The entire kingdom waited. Even the wind seemed to stop. Finally she smiled. Then stand. Slowly Damon rose. She placed her hand in his. Not because the past never happened. Not because the pain was gone. But because love had survived even the darkest winter. The crowd erupted. Fireworks burst above the palace. Leo cheered. Celine laughed. Adrian smiled. And under the silver moon the Alpha King kissed his Luna once again. At long last the kingdom was whole.